Hi, my name is Greg Mills, and I'm one of the Certified Cisco Systems Instructors, or CCSIs, at Sunset Learning Institute. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the CCNA Guided Program. This video is designed to explain what you can expect during the program and to also show you around a bit. Depending on when you're viewing this video, you have already received or will soon receive a welcome letter. The letter explains a lot of what I'll show you on this video, but will also give you some details specific to your program states and instructors. Please keep the letter and do take time to read through it. Let's look at some of the key pieces of information that you'll find in that welcome letter. First, we're reminded to use the Sunset Next Learning Community Portal to access the program materials. The link is shown here, but since you're viewing this video, I suspect that you have already successfully opened a session to the Next community. Nonetheless, the link for Next will always be easy to find right near the top of the welcome letter. The Program Format section tells you your official start date, but also lets you know that you have access to the CPLL CCNA e-learning course a week earlier than that. This is so that you can start studying the first week's assignments and have them done before the first live instructor session. The first week's assignment is the first 7 sections in the CCNA e-learning course. You can log into CPLL via the Next Community homepage or by clicking the link here to go directly to the Cisco CPLL page. We'll look at this and other links on the Next homepage in just a few minutes. This section also lets you know who the instructors for each live session will be. Keep the CCNA Guided at sunsetlearning.com email address handy in case you need to reach out to the instructors for any logistical issue that you may have. Following that is a direct link to the BOSUN exam simulator for when you're ready to start practicing for the CCNA exam. The simulator can also be reached from the Next homepage. I'll show you that later as well. After that is the topics list for each week's live sessions. Links for the live sessions and recordings are also on the Next homepage. And guess what? The Next homepage is where you'll also go for the CCNA Guided Discussion Board. Remember that this board is a place where you can go to ask questions or to seek guidance related to the material in the study lessons. The discussion board is monitored by your instructors and also other available instructors, and our goal is to answer your questions without making you wait to ask during a live session. So far, we've been talking about the Next homepage as the place to go to find the links to just about anything you need to get to as part of the program. But this next part of the welcome letter is to remind you that there's a lot more to Next than just the homepage. I'll show you some of that soon as well. The last part of the welcome letter gives you a week-by-week breakdown of the study sections. Remember that you'll need to try to get through sections 1 through 7 before the official kickoff date and the first live sessions. Because we're sending you off to start on your own for this first week, we've also included a couple of tools to help you with IPv4 addressing and subnetting. If you need help in these areas, read through the Cisco IP addressing guide and practice with the IP subnet calculator. The agendas for the other weeks are also shown here to include the lessons for each week and also your attendance of the live sessions. Alright, so now let's go take a look at the Next homepage that I've been saying so much about. Again, you're probably already logged in and on the homepage, but if not, use one of the many links included in the welcome letter. First, I'll log in using the email address and password that was assigned to me when I joined the program. And hey, right there at the top is where you can play this video again if you like to do so. But let's scroll down to start looking at some link buttons. This first button is for the program guide and weekly assignments. When you go there, you can see each week's assignments just like what was shown in the welcome letter. To the right of that is a button that will take you directly to the Cisco CPLL login page. We won't log in right now, but you can do so with the login information that was provided to you when you signed up for the program. And to the right of that is the button to take you to the BOSUN exam simulator. You probably don't need this button right at the start, but sometime further into the program when you're starting to practice for the CCNA exam. Below the buttons is an interactive calendar showing you the 10 live session dates and times, but note the link right above the calendar. When it is time for a live session, you can click here to connect into the live session directly from this page. However, you may want to set some reminders for these events on your personal calendar. To do that, click any of the Save the Date links for any session. A calendar will pop up and all of the live event dates are shown. For my example, the events are scheduled during the months of July and August. I'll use the arrow to show July and then click on the date of the 28th. The time shown at the top right is based on my local time zone, which is Mountain Time. 6 a.m. is a little early for me, so I'll click on the date of the 30th. The time for that live session is 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I like that time better, so I'll click on that button and then confirm my choice. Next, I'll enter in my name and email address, and if I want a text reminder, then I'll enter in my cell phone number. Then I'll click on Schedule Event, which will send me an email reminder. Once the event is confirmed, I can click the link to add the event to my Google or Outlook calendar. I'll choose Outlook, and now I've downloaded an ICS file. I can click on the file to create an event in Outlook. When I save the event, it is now in my Outlook calendar so that I'll be reminded of when and how to attend. I can repeat this process to save all of the events to my calendar. After returning to the next home page, I see another button below the calendar, but this button will take me to the recordings of the sessions so that I can listen to them if I miss them or if I just want to review them. Finally, at the very bottom of the page is the CCNA Guided Discussion Board. As I said earlier, this is where you can go to ask questions or for help in between live sessions. Also, as I said earlier, Next is so much more than the home page for your program. Scrolling back up to the top of the page, I can see other menu options that allow me to access the wealth of knowledge that is in Next. Digital Course menu allows me to start to pick and choose previously recorded learning courses on a wide variety of topics. Short studies are collections of pieces of media related to learning a particular topic. Clicking on all videos takes me to where I can search for videos related to certain keywords. And Community FAQ may help if you have logistical questions about the Next community. Be sure you take advantage of the Next library not only for your CCNA studies, but to learn about other technologies as well. The rest of this video will give a short description of each of the 33 sections of the CCNA e-learning course. You're welcome to stick around for it, but in case you're ready to start exploring on your own, I want to thank you for your time and wish you great success at obtaining your CCNA certification. There are 33 sections or topics in the CPLL CCNA course, and you will be asked to cover 7 sections per week for the first 4 weeks, and then 5 sections on the 5th and final week. These 7 topics, by the way, are what are usually covered in a single day during a traditional CCNA training course, but you will have a week in which to go through them on your own. The first, Exploring the Functions of Networking, takes you through a network, looking at the components, characteristics, and applications that might be found in a network. Introducing the Host-to-Host Communications Model introduces you to the OSI 7-layer model, the TCP/IP protocol suite, and how that model and how that protocol suite relate to host-to-host or peer-to-peer communications over a network. Operating Cisco iOS software introduces you to the Cisco Internetwork Operating System, or iOS, which is the heart of most Cisco switch and router functionality. Introducing LANs explains what a local area network, or LAN, is, the components in LANs, and why switches are an integral part of LANs. Exploring the TCP/IP link layer talks about Ethernet communications, including Ethernet frames, MAC addresses, and how switches forward frames. Starting a switch discusses how to install and then connect to the console port of a switch and then perform some basic iOS commands. And finally, for week 1, introducing the TCP/IP internet layer, IPv4 addressing and subnets, gets into more detail about the internet protocol, or IP, including IP addressing and subnetting. The assignments for week 2 will start off with explaining the TCP/IP transport layer and application layer, which is where Transmission Control Protocol, or TCP, and User Datagram Protocol, or UDP, operate and how application packets are carried over IP. Exploring the functions of routing will explain the role of a router, router components and functions, and how a router determines the best path for packets to take to get to their destination in the network. Configuring a Cisco router shows the initial router setup, configuring router interfaces, and using discovery protocols such as Cisco Discovery Protocol, or CDP, and Link Layer Discovery Protocol, or LLDP, to see who a router's neighboring devices are. Exploring the packet delivery process gets into detail about how Layer 2 addresses, MAC addresses, and Layer 3 addresses, IP addresses, are used to deliver packets across the network. Troubleshooting a simple network. Once we know how the network should work, we'll next explore how to troubleshoot problems when the network does not work as it should. Introducing basic IPv6, we'll talk about the need for IPv6, how IPv6 differs from IPv4, and how to configure basic IPv6 connectivity. And finally, configuring static routing will start us off in how the router determines best paths or routes to destinations. This section will cover static routes, where we manually tell the router about routes to destinations. Week 3 will start off with revisiting switches. Implementing VLANs and trunks will discuss how to create virtual LANs or VLANs on switches and how to trunk or carry those VLANs between switches. Routing between VLANs will cover the need to route traffic from VLAN to VLAN and how to configure basic inter-VLAN routing. Introducing OSPF, Open Shortest Path First will be the dynamic routing protocol covered for CCNA. Dynamic routing protocols allow our routers to share path or routing information with one another so that they can learn those paths on their own, negating or reducing the need for us to manually enter in static routes. Building redundant switch topologies returns us to the world of switching, but in this case discusses the need for and then possible problems of creating redundant paths between switches. This section discusses spanning tree protocol and some variations of it, which allows us to have redundant paths in our switch networks. Improving redundant switch topologies with Ether channel will explain another way to implement redundant paths in the switch networks, known as Ether channel. Exploring Layer 3 redundancy. Not only do we need redundant paths in our switch networks, but we also need redundancy in our routed networks. This section will take a look at the need for default gateway redundancy and how to accomplish it using First Hop Redundancy Protocol, or FHRP, and Hot Standby Router Protocol, which is HSRP. And then we'll wrap up Week 3 with introducing WAN technologies, where we'll look at wide area network, or WAN, connectivity to allow us to connect our network over long distances. By Week 4, you should have a pretty good understanding of routing and switching, so this week we'll add more details around security and other considerations in networking. Explaining basics of access control lists, or ACLs, will get you started in creating and monitoring access control lists that are used to control what traffic can go where across our networks. Enabling Internet connectivity explains how network address translation, otherwise known as NAT, and port address translation, or PAT, are used to connect our internal network devices to the Internet, using a limited number of, or even a single IP address to represent our entire network out to the world. Introducing QoS, which is quality of service, allows us to give more important or time-sensitive network packets priority over other types of packets. Explaining wireless fundamentals, we'll introduce wireless technologies and how to set up a wireless LAN, or WLAN, including how to set up access points and wireless LAN controllers. Introducing architectures and virtualization talks about network design, including some network architectures, device architectures, and also device virtualization. Explaining the evolution of intelligent networks takes a look into network programmability and software-defined networking, including Cisco DNA Center, Cisco SD Access, and Cisco SD-WAN. Week 4 will wrap up with introducing system monitoring, which is where we'll discuss using syslog, SNMP, and other monitoring methods to keep an eye on what's happening in our networks. Week 5, alright, you're almost there. Week 5 starts off with managing Cisco devices, how to load and manage iOS image files and configuration files on our Cisco routers and switches. Examining the security threat landscape discusses a number of the possible attacks that our networks may face. And implementing threat defense technologies explains some of the well-known security methods that can be deployed to protect our networks against those attacks. Securing administrative access is another defense method and controls who can access our devices, either through the console port or remotely. And finally, implementing device hardening covers how to lock down our devices even tighter. The last part of Week 5 will be focused on preparation for the CCNA exam. This is the time, but not the only time, depending on your comfort level, to start to get ready for the exam by going through the practice exams and to cover any other exam-related considerations.